YouTube, what is up? Long time no see here on the Fantasy Football Perspective. My name is Luke, coming with another video. I know I said I was going to record last night, didn't get to it, but here we are today, Thursday, July 29th, bringing you a video about my wide receiver tiers. A little bit about it before I get into it. Same rules apply when I put a wide receiver in a tier. There's no specific rankings within the tier. Any of them, I think they're all going to land about the same spot in the final rankings. You can't go wrong with any of them. We'll give you a little bit of tidbit about each receiver and why they're in that tier. I need to kind of decrease the time of this video. Last video went a little bit long on the running backs. So my goal today, the receivers were a lot harder, I'm not going to lie, just because the pure volume of receivers is so much higher in running backs. So without further ado, let's dig into the video. If you haven't liked or subscribed, please hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate it. Helps the channel grow and gets us solving that YouTube algorithm. Appreciate it. Peace. So here we are. So you can see the spreadsheet on the screen here. This is my wide receiver tier rankings. I don't know how many exact receivers that are on this list. I really did it for my head, so there might be a possibility that I forgot someone. But this is a 2021-2022 redraft tier list. I don't have Dynasty involved in my head when I'm making this list. I have a completely different spreadsheet for Dynasty. If that's something y'all are interested in, please comment below. We can go over that as well. But I'm talking purely about that redraft 2021-2022 wide receiver list. So the tiers aren't named exactly the same as the running backs because I think there's higher room for error when you're trying to put these guys in tiers because there's a lot of variables with wide receiver rankings. Some of those variables may include, obviously, injury. Less likelihood for injury with receivers than running backs, but injuries do happen. B, they're also dependent on if their other, like wide receiver 2 on their team gets injured, they get higher target shares or maybe start getting more double teams. So you're counting on other receivers' injuries within their own team. C, another variable that affects it is QB injuries and QB play. Also, going to a new team affects wide receiver rankings. The trades happen. There's just so much that goes on with these receivers. When you're talking about rookie receivers, how quickly do they adjust to that NFL schedule and that NFL coverage? A lot of stuff to dig into. So without further ado, let's get into this. Tier number 1. We're talking tier 1. And that I would name this tier high chance to be number 1 receiver. The highest chance. That's Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, Davante Adams, Calvin Ridley, and Stephon Diggs. Listen, it doesn't take, I don't think this is like expert insight or anything. You watched last season. This is based on last season. Going into the new season, what's going on? Tyreek Hill still has the same QB, the same offense. He's still the fastest receiver in the game. DeAndre Hopkins, second year in the system. Usually see a big jump with wide receivers second year into the system after a trade. He had a heck of a year last year, so we're looking for a huge jump from DeAndre Hopkins. Davante Adams, Rodgers is back, baby. The Davante Adams-Rodgers connection continues. Calvin Ridley, Julio's out of town. Is he going to be the target hog? I saw Vegas has an over-under on Calvin Ridley to have 1,400 yards. Hey, that might be a good over, honestly. The only real competition that Calvin Ridley's going to have with targets is Kyle Pitts. So we'll see how that affects Calvin. But I think he's going to have a solid year. And Stephon Diggs had a great season last year. Second year in the system, just like Hopkins up there. Looking for good things. All right. So we're moving down to tier 2. This is top 5 potential if everything goes right. So I think these receivers can be in the top 5. And you'll see my tiers list a lot of receivers this year. But everything has to go right for them to get there. And let's start off with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was on a tear last year with Herbert. he was getting so many targets it wasn't even right. Um, does that continue? Does Mike Williams start getting more targets? They brought in some other receivers in the draft. Did they start taking some targets? Do they spread the ball around? New offensive coordinator in LA. See what happens. Justin Jefferson, he is number one on that offense, but Adam Thielen is still the red zone target. Does that change? If Justin Jefferson starts getting some of those red zone targets, hey, there might be a new number 3, number 2, number 1 in town in fantasy football. Allen Robinson, I think it's really based on QB play. Can Andy Dalton get it done? Can Justin Fields get it done? And do they pepper Allen Robinson with targets like old Mitch Trubisky did last year? DK Metcalf, does he keep evolving as a receiver? Does his route tree get more diverse? Will the Seahawks keep throwing the ball and let Russ cook, or will they switch to kind of a more ground and pound game? Because if they start doing that, his targets are going to go down just based on the offensive scheme. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So Chris Godwin in the Buccaneers offense seems to be the target guy. But Mike Evans gets the high-end targets. What I mean by high-end targets, he is the red zone guy. He is the deep threat guy. He is the guy getting all the targets when they're throwing the ball actually into the end zone. So if either of those correlate to each other, Mike Evans picks up some of Godwin's targets, or Godwin starts picking up some red zone, deep threat, end zone targets, it wouldn't surprise me if they shot up the wide receiver board. I think they do kind of hurt each other if that starts to happen, but one of them will benefit. Scary Terry, high target share, Curtis Samuel in town, hopefully get some double teams away from him. If that happens, one-on-one, can't guard Scary Terry. How good's Fitzpatrick going to be? It's all dependent on how good that offense is. A.J. Brown, he's still the number one option. That Julio news just broke about him and Roddy White selling illegal marijuana. Who knows the truth to that or whatever. There's going to be any punishment. But if A.J. Brown is the lone receiver out there without Julio Jones, he is going to have a 30-35% target share. If that happens, he has real top 5 potential. CeeDee Lamb, I kind of just added him to this tier yesterday after the news that Cooper is still suffering from, I think it's his foot injury. He's not practicing. You know, the Cowboys said he'd be practicing in 2 weeks. Well, it's been 2 weeks. They're saying 3 more weeks. When you start getting that information about another receiver, the only thing that can happen for the others is they get that target share. So CeeDee Lamb should produce at a higher level if Amari Cooper is in fact that hurt. All right, tier 3. This is top 8 potential, but not probable. These are the receivers that I think are on that fringe of top 8, but probably not, because we just don't know. Definitely wide receiver 1 most likely. Beginning at that top 8, it's kind of hard to see. I mean, this is when I have Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. The thing about Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp is we don't know what their new offense is going to entail. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp get a lot of their receptions really close to the line of scrimmage. Matthew Stafford in town is going to air it out, throw it farther down the field. Can Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods kind of succeed in that role, or is someone else going to step up on that offense and kind of be that deep threat? I know they drafted Van Jefferson last year, Tutu Atwell this year to kind of spread the field. If they're going to push the ball down the field, that may actually hurt Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Just by their play style. Cooper Kupp's the slot guy. Robert Woods is that Swiss Army knife going around the line of scrimmage doing his thing. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with those two. Brandon Ayuk came on at the end of the season. His numbers were off the charts. I think he scored 5 or 6 touchdowns the last 4 games. The only problem is when he was scoring those touchdowns, George Kittle and Deebo Samuel were both out. So, everyone healthy, what is Ayuk's actual target share? It's a question to be seen. Deontay Johnson, target monster, but low production. He had the 6th most targets in the NFL last year as a receiver, and I don't even think he was top 12 wide receiver. So it's almost like an outlier to get that many targets and not produce at a higher level. So if the productivity starts meeting the target share, watch out, man. This guy has top 8, even top 5 potential. DJ Moore, is this the year? Every year we hear about DJ Moore. He's going to explode. We get to really see it. His age adjusted productivity is off the charts. He's a young guy, but he has been in the year for been in the league for 3 or 4 years now, and every year I feel like we're saying, is this the year DJ Moore goes off? Is this the year DJ Moore goes off? And it doesn't really happen. Solid, but not great. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. I really think the Cincinnati Bengals offense is going to be good this year, and I think one of these guys are just going to explode. Can't put my finger on which. T. Higgins has played with Burrow 1 year already. Jamar Chase obviously put up record numbers at LSU with Burrow. One of these guys are definitely going to explode. Kind of make your pick, your assumption, what you think could happen. I don't think you really can go wrong with either one. Jamar Chase is the only rookie receiver that I really have faith in. I'm starting to get a little higher on Jalen Waddle with recent reports that Fuller and Parker are already out with injury. We'll discuss that when I get down to Jalen Waddle. But Jamar Chase is about the only one that I really trust this year. Let's move on to our next tier. It's tier 4, solid wide receiver number 2s. We got Chase Claypool, DJ Chark, Robbie Anderson, Jarvis Landry, Tyler Boyd, Jerry Jeudy. I don't have much to say about these. I think it's pretty good assumption that these guys are going to land between wide receiver 13 and 24 at the end of the year rankings, just by their profile and their kind of role within their offense is pretty safe. They're just safe options. Jerry Jeudy's getting a little scarier because I don't like his chance of producing at a high level with Drew Lock. But all the others should be pretty well and have a little bit of upside. Chase Claypool has upside. DJ Chark has upside. I think Robbie Anderson, Jarvis Landry, and Tyler Boyd are just those safe. You're not going to leave the draft feeling great that you got Jarvis Landry in the 8th round, but when you put him in a flex week, there's a possibility that he goes for 8 catches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. So those are your safer wide receiver mid-round options. Tier 5, these are the guys I'm kind of getting off of at this point. They're just no longer that number 1 option on their own team. Adam Thielen, Julio Jones, Tyler Lockett, they're all getting up there in age. I know Tyler Lockett had some explosion games last year, but he's really hit or miss. Like I said about DK Metcalf and that Seahawks offense earlier, are they going to keep airing it out like that? They're going to get more to the ground and pound. I just think there's a lot of factors that might be negatively impacting Tyler Lockett's production, and age is starting to become a factor. Tier 6, I got good players, but hurt or went to a new team. Research shows that as a receiver, when you go to a new team, that following year, usually you're not as good as you once were. Like your stats aren't as good. But the following year 2 in that system is when you usually see that productivity jump and you get back to your past form. So the new teams, we got Corey Davis, who had a pretty good year last year. Nelson Aguilar had a great year for the Raiders. Kenny Golladay, who was hurt last year. Marvin Jones and Curtis Samuel. All decent to, I would say, good receivers that go to a new team that I'm kind of going to avoid just because they're going to a new team. Then we got the injuries. We got Michael Thomas out 4 to 8 games already. Got to avoid him at that point. That's half the season. Amari Cooper could miss games. He's still missing practice. And then we got OBJ and Cortland Sutton that are both practicing, but the research also says that the first year off an ACL tear, you're not as productive as you were 2 years off an ACL tear. So you want to target these guys 2 years off the ACL tear, not 1 year. So I'm going to avoid OBJ and Cortland Sutton this year. Like I say a lot, this isn't including my dynasty outlook. This is just season long. You don't want to take chances in season long. The year's too quick. Obviously, you don't want to take someone like Michael Thomas, who is already written in stone that he's going to miss 6 games. But people still will reach. Don't be that person in your league that reaches. All right, in tier 7, This is my dart and rookie receivers. These are the people you're throwing darts at that you think may be good, possibility, but most likely aren't going to win or contribute to your team. But I'm kind of going to move. I talked about Jalen Waddle for a second. I spelled his name wrong here. The reports out of Miami are that he is the best receiver in camp. And now when you see Will Fuller and Devontae Parker go down with injury, Waddle's kind of shooting up here to, I would say, this solid number 2 or top 8 potential if he truly is the number 1 receiver and at a Dolphins camp. So I might have to move him out of here after that. But let's just go through my darts. Henry Ruggs, if he fills that Nelson Aguilar role of last year, he could explode. Darnell Mooney, he makes those corners look dumb. If he gets a better deep throw passer, which Justin Fields is, he has the potential. Juju, we've already seen him do it before. I mean, he was a top 8 receiver. Kind of slowed down. He's a slot receiver, man. If he still has a role, he's kind of on a 1-year prove-it deal. Could he go? He has the potential. He's done it before. Marquise Brown, we hear about him exploding every year. He's supposed to be really good last year. Didn't happen. Brandon Cooks, going to be the only receiver on his team. So take that for what it's worth in that Houston Texans offense. Mike Williams, I'm getting a little bit behind as we get going. Camp reports come out. Mike Williams is kind of shining, and he does get all the deep threats and those important targets in the offense. So kind of getting a little higher on Mike Williams. Randall Cobb reunited with Aaron Rodgers. I like Randall Cobb a lot. They played great together. The fact of it is he is old. He is injury prone, so I probably wouldn't risk it in a 1-year fantasy league. Michael Pittman, could he have a second-year explosion with a new quarterback? Elijah Moore, saw he's with the second team at practice, which kind of alarms me because I think he has the talent to be a first-team receiver, but sometimes rookie receivers don't get that chance till later on the season. So can you afford to wait till later on the season in the 1-year league? Antonio Brown, this could be a sneaky pick. Tom Brady loves targeting Antonio Brown. He's going sometimes in the 9th, 10th round. If that happens, I think he's a steal, honestly. Jalen Waller, we talked about him. Devontae Smith, there's not out of the realm of possibilities that he goes into Philadelphia as the number 1 receiver right off the gate and is just peppered with targets. If that happens, man, watch out. He could explode and be a late-round pick. Jalen Reagor could be sophomore explosion. Who knows? He didn't have a very good rookie year. If you look at his advanced analytics, he doesn't separate well. That usually doesn't bode well for future success. See if that turns around. Michael Gallup, I'm a little higher on now that Amari Cooper's hurt, just as I talked about CeeDee Lamb. I don't think he has as much upside as CeeDee Lamb, but if they change his role a little bit so he's not just a deep threat, he could be a heck of a receiver for your team. Gabrielle Davis, rookie last year, had 6 or 7 touchdowns, pretty good season. Does that number explode? They brought Emmanuel Sanders back in, just in to Buffalo. Does that take away from his role at all? Who knows? Wait and see. Rashad Bateman, rookie receiver for the Baltimore Ravens, said in camp he looks great. Might be a dart throw if you believe in the passing game of the Baltimore Ravens. All right. Went through this whole list. Typically, I'd say if they're not on this list, they're kind of off my board for season long, but I may have forgotten someone. Again, I was trying to do this off my head. I did not want to look at any other material when I was doing this because I wanted to give you my raw opinion on this stuff. What I'll say is these are just my tiers. Again, if you fall into my tier, this isn't actual rankings within the tier. I suggest you making your own tiers, what you think, and using that opposed to other people's opinions or rankings, because you need to do the research yourself and use that to your advantage. There's a lot of good research out there. At any time, if you found anything beneficial from this video, please drop a like. That shoots me up the boards of YouTube and will actually show me on the search bar, and I appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Hey, thanks for your time, guys. Peace.